Hey everyone, thank you for joining and welcome to the Meridian Point podcast. Happy New Year. Hopefully all of you had a pleasant and relaxing holiday and you're hitting the new year with all of your goals in mind. I have a special guest today, someone that I've known for on and off for many years. I've been acquainted with him over the years, talking to Kreisler Ng, founder of Right at Home Long Beach, a home care franchise serving families in Southern California. After 20 years in corporate consulting and agile coaching, Kreisler experienced a profound personal disruption, caring for his late mother-in-law during COVID, becoming a first-time father, and getting laid off, all within months of each other. Instead of returning to corporate life, he honored his mother-in-law's wish that he find work helping others in a more direct way. Now he's navigating the challenges of entrepreneurship in an industry that forces families to confront what Western society often avoids: aging, decline, and end-of-life planning. So let's dive into this journey. Let me welcome Kreisler here to the stage. Thank you so much for joining us, Kreisler.
Hey, morning, Kumar. Thanks for having me. Excited.
Of course. Did you have a good New Year?
I did, yeah. It was very relaxing. I'm in LA, so it quote unquote rained a lot for us. So we just went out with family. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed the floods there. It was quite something to watch.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what floods. I don't know if you were flooded. Hopefully not.
I was not fortunate. But yeah. It's we need the rain. It's a give and take, right? There's always pros and cons to everything.
Yeah, exactly. Here's someone wishing us a happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you,
Leon. So you experienced multiple life-changing events nearly simultaneously a few years ago, right? Caring for your mother-in-law, becoming a father, getting laid off. Walk us through that period. When did you realize you weren't going back to corporate work, and how did you decide on this new endeavor?
Yeah, so to take you back, Kumar, and your audience, this was probably, I'd say 4 years ago, 3.5, 4 years ago. So during COVID, and as you mentioned in your intro, right? Like I was in corporate for 20 years. I say I was institutionalized in that sense, in a good way, right? And was working for C Prime, an agile consulting company, right? And had several roles, and things were going great, right? Leadership roles and just taking on more responsibilities. And that's how you and I connected back in those days. And then my mother-in-law, she's been homebound, or my late mother-in-law was homebound the last 10 years of her life. And what that means medically is it's too hard to get out of the house for the person, right? Effort from a medical perspective. And then COVID hit. She had a private caregiver quit within 24 hours of shutdown. If you recall, if everyone recalls back then, all that anxiety everyone was going through and unknowingness, right? The unknown. And then my wife and I became her primary caregiver. Okay. And we live 40 minutes away, right? But we have flexibility. So we became her primary caregiver in the home. So all her needs, essentially, more or less. Yeah. So just going through that, and if anyone's ever cared for a loved one or an aging one, it's not easy. Whether it's medical or emotional or anxiety, and we all have corporate lives and things like that. We had and this was actually before our daughter, right? And so we cared for her for the last 3 years. Our daughter was born, and then when she was age 1, my mother-in-law abruptly passed away. I see this every day now in this space, but literally from getting sick, bedridden, within 5 days, passing in the home. And so she never liked what I did for a living. That was her thing, her view. I always say she was a person that, yes, you deliver value to society, but I really want you to help people. From her perspective, a healthcare perspective. My wife is a pharmacist, and she always has been. And so she just really wanted me to do something different. But anyhow, again, she abruptly passed away. And then a few months later, I was laid off Prime. And so it all happened all at once, right? You can imagine. And then being a new father and the pressures of that. And then, we actually bought our first home. I talk about that probably a year. into it too as well. So there was just a lot going on at that time, and making that transition. So it wasn't. I don't think it was intentional. Some people tell me, well, some people are very intentional about, hey, this is what I want to do.
Mm.
Right. But it gave me meaning and made me rethink about life, Kumar. And really, I thought I was going to go back to corporate. I'm just going to be honest. This is why I wasn't intentional. I'm sure if some of your audience, if they're tech folks, you know how hard the market is. Even now, I've heard even today, it's been really hard. And so I looked for a bit, just like everyone else. But I kept going back to what my mother-in-law said of doing something meaningful in the second half of my life or career. And so I thought about caregiving, right? Because that's what I was for a few years for a mother-in-law. Yeah.
That's really interesting. My cousin, her husband had a similar experience, I suppose, but with his mother, not his mother-in-law, but his mother, caring for his mother as she was going through, her last days on this planet, on this journey, right?
Yeah.
And he and his and my cousin, his wife, ended up forming a company, not caregiving, but more about providing families with the types of equipment and beds and things like that seniors need. This is in India, where I think maybe people have a closer relationship to the last days of people's lives. Families often live together in the same household and things like that. So that was it just kind of reminded me of that. That time in their life and what they had gone through. So pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's going to touch everyone, right? Everyone goes through it. And this was my first time going through it, right? Like my own parents are still alive, and I'm lucky, I'm fortunate and healthy. But I know everyone goes through it, right? Everyone's going to be touched by it. Everyone, in my opinion, is going to be a caregiver at one point or another. Yeah.
So that's an interesting pivot. I mean, completely different from what you were doing before, completely different than what I do now, right? So talk to us about that. I mean, that's a huge disruption in your life. It feels like it was a calling to a certain extent. And how did the experience of caring for your mother-in-law steer you in that direction?
Yeah, I mean, I think, coming from 20 years of corporate, I'm used to working in large organizations, just like you, Kumar, right? Like whether you're coaching with a client or whatever it may be, large organizations, having a team, and I don't want to say safety, right? Because I used to think that way, the larger, the bigger. But as we've known in this world, nothing is forever, right? Which I'm still practicing, honestly. And just making that transition. I mean, even as simple as, and I'm still transitioning, right? Like, come on, I know we titled this Rebuilt. I was thinking, I'm still rebuilding my life. I'm still rebuilding my life. And I actually think everyone is going through that one way or another, right? But even making that transition of having a paycheck, right, every 2 weeks, having a team, and then going to zero, right? Going to zero and trying to build something to one right now. And doing payroll, understanding labor laws, managing everyone, right? Doing this. And at the end of the day, the ball ends with you, right? As a small business owner, as you know, right?
Yeah.
No matter what. And so it's been frankly mentally challenging, physically challenging, right? I have my ups and downs, and of course I always think about my mother-in-law, and she used to always say, if there are no challenges, you won't learn.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll be upfront. Come on. I didn't want challenges, right? I wanted life easy, just like anyone else, right? I think it's very common. But she would always say, well, you'll just never learn, Kreisler. You'll never learn.
She sounds like a really wise woman. She was a really wise woman and imparted something in you that made you challenge yourself. So that's pretty amazing. You said something in our prior conversation that was really powerful that I mentioned in the intro.
Yeah.
In Western society doesn't want to talk about aging and dying. We don't want to see it. And
Yeah.
now in your current role as the owner of a home care franchise,
Yeah.
you see it all the time, right? You
Yes.
meet families in the hospitals that are
Mhm.
calling from hospitals in a panic because they don't know what to do. Why do you think we're so unprepared for something that's inevitable for us all?
Yeah, I think about this every day, right? Like you said, I deal with families all the time, every week, and I think it's one of those things in Western society we just and when I say Western, I mean to me at least American society, right?
Yeah.
Because that's really what my view is, of course, right? Um, we don't want to see our own parents or loved ones aging. We don't want to see suffering,
Yeah.
right? Uh, and it's kind of a little bit out of sight, out of mind. And I'm not applying this to every family I work with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's we don't want to talk about it. I mean, even I'll give an example. Even my own parents, for the longest time, and they didn't grow up in America, right? My parents immigrated
Mm-hmm.
here when they're 30, but they've been in here a while, right? And they've integrated fully. They didn't want to talk about it. Right? It took me 6 or 7 years to convince them to talk about their end of life desires or
Mm-hmm.
requests. How do you want to be taken care of? How do you want to be buried? They just didn't. They said, I don't want to talk about it. Why are you talking about bad stuff? And
Mm-hmm.
I understand that point of view, but I don't think it's bad. I actually don't see death as bad as I've gone through this journey the last few years.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe it's because also again my late mother-in-law talked openly about death,
Mm.
right? So I don't want to bring religion too much into it, but she was Buddhist, a practicing Buddhist, and
Mhm.
she talked openly about it, right? Like we need to prepare, right? And that's reality in all of us, right? What do they say? What is it? Taxes and death, right? Like that. Like
Yeah.
that's the famous saying, right? Like no matter what happens in your life. Uh, and so I think to answer your question, I think that's why we just don't want to talk about it or prepare until. But the problem is when it comes and it comes fast, right? It came fast for my mother-in-law. You're unprepared and you make not rational decisions, right?
Sure.
Or I've seen families argue, kids argue, and it breaks apart people because it's not all set out
Yeah.
in place. Yeah.
No,
So,
makes sense. I think we should certainly talk about it. I'm reflecting on myself and
yeah. Yeah.
I haven't really, my dad
Okay.
passed away a while ago and
Yeah.
I think we were forced to talk about it then, but
Mm,
since then we
mm.
really haven't talked about
Yeah.
it. And I'm getting older. I'm not getting any younger.
Yeah. Yeah. We
So
all are, right? We're all aging,
yeah.
and I always tell families, and adult kids now that I work with, I say, have you thought about it yourself? You're healthy now, but getting a trust, right? Power of attorney, who's going to make medical decisions? Uh, what's your living will looking like?
Yeah.
And it can change, right? It
Yeah.
can change, and you don't need to spend a lot of money, right? A fortune trying to build those things. Obviously, get the right legal counsel, but it just lays it out there,
Yeah.
right? And actually, it helps. I would say it helps the family
Yeah.
greatly, right? Versus in a time of need or whatnot.
Right.
Then that's when it becomes an issue a lot of times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've described the American healthcare system as really complicated and pretty awful. What are the most common misconceptions families have when they first contact you for services that you provide? What do they think will happen versus what actually happens?
Yeah, and I'll start with even one of the most common misconceptions. It's a great question, Omar, right? People say home care,
Hmm.
and it's actually a general statement. It could be medical and non-medical,
Mm.
or in the field, skilled is medical, right? Like nurses, doctors, PTOT, right? Therapists, and then non-skilled, which is more in my space, which is caregivers. Okay. And so even that, there's a misconception, right? Of like, okay, uh, you're going to do everything, right? Agency. And I'm like, no, there's actually a difference. The licenses are different. Of course, it's different by state and federal law, but they're very different, right? They complement one another because they help someone survive and live in the home comfortably and longer. But even that, right? And then I'll move on to the system we have. And I'm still learning. I'm by no means an expert, right? I'm a healthcare expert. We assume, if you're 65 and up, you can be eligible for Medicare, right? In the US, right? A, B, and C. I won't get into the letters because that's also its own confusion, and what's covered and not covered. But everyone assumes because insurance has covered a lot of things in our lives as adults, especially when we're healthy, we assume that it covers all of home care. And so the biggest question I get a lot is, it'll cover medical side, but what I provide in terms of caregiving, which means I just keep it very simple, Kumar, right? For caregiving, it's things we all take for granted when we're healthy. So whether it's bathing yourself, getting dressed, getting out of bed, making food for yourself, getting out of the home, running errands, things that you need to do to survive, but they're not necessarily medical, right?
Sure.
Almost all insurance doesn't cover it, right? Maybe some HMOs will cover it. Medicare definitely doesn't cover it. If you're a veteran, they will cover it. If you're a veteran, you apply for VA benefits. Long-term care insurance will cover. Outside, and so you can imagine, right? Like home care and just long-term care is what we call it in this space. Whether it's assisted living or you're in memory care or some sort of community, right, for seniors.
It's out of pocket.
It's out of pocket. And I think people assume that's going to be covered, right? Like, don't worry about it. And so I would say that's one of the biggest misconceptions is people, well, I have this insurance. Will you take it? And I will say, sorry, I wish I could.
Yeah. That's interesting. And I'm aware of it only because one of my clients, one of my small business coaching clients is in a similar, he has a franchise in home health care or home care.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it to me. Yeah.
And so I've learned a lot about the business, and Medicare covers very little, if at all. And so, I'm sure that was a surprise to me. So I haven't yet, but we have talked, my wife and I, about what do we do if we need care later on in life. Just certainly don't want to be a burden on our kids.
Yeah. So that's absolutely to your point, right? That's the biggest thing.
A nice comment there from someone in the audience, Mary Sanders, who I used to work with at one of my clients.
Cool. Yeah.
We are definitely ill prepared for old age, for both ourselves, our parents. I think in some cases we're forced into preparing right at the when the time comes, and I'm sure you get those calls like, what do I do? I need care, I need help, and that's got to be both challenging but also rewarding for you, right, to be able to provide that kind of support for people that are going through that.
I think, if I may add, I mean, it's that middle class, right? It's being squeezed, right? Like if you have a lot of money, then, which is, the top 1%, sure, right? You can pay for it out of pocket. But at least in the state of California, you have to be in poverty to cover Medicaid, right? Medicaid will cover, right? Medicaid will cover home care and stuff, but you're talking, I don't know what the latest numbers are, right? But having less than $10,000 under your name, right, in terms of net worth. And that has its own issues, of course, right?
Right.
But everyone else, it's not covered, and you can imagine it adds up quickly. Right, for loving. That's why half of caregiving actually is, I think the latest number is mostly families caregiving. You can imagine, Kumar, right? And so I think the latest numbers are like, it's a $500 billion industry on the private side, how they quantify it. And then actually in my space, it's another $500 billion.
Wow.
So it's a really, taking it back to business, right? But it's a really big business, right? And it's a growing need because we're all living longer.
Right, and the population is aging, and
Yeah.
all those things that factor into it.
Yeah.
Mary is a little bit more prepared, right?
Oh, awesome, Mary.
Yeah. So I
Lead
think
into it
maybe you are
early.
an
Yeah.
anomaly, but maybe we can learn from you, Mary, and be
Yeah.
more prepared in our old age. I just turned 60 last year, so long-term care insurance is probably going to be pretty expensive for me to buy now, but I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah. Look
You
into
were
it. Come on.
smart, Mary, getting it when you were 37. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's an investment, right? If you can
Yeah,
afford it, right? It's a
yeah,
long-term investment. It's a, I don't want to use the word hedge, right? But I've seen people, and again, people are blessed too, right? I've seen a lot of adult kids step up, take care of their parents, whether
yeah,
themselves or financially. Uh, that helps, but you got to have that conversation, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
So you deal with disruption pretty much every day. The show is really all about disruption and innovation, and you've had that, of course, 3.5 years ago in spades, right? With COVID, with your mother-in-law, with
yeah.
a new child who is now what, 3.5, 2.5?
She's 4. She's 4 now.
4.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
wonderful. That's a great age.
yeah,
But just in your business, I know because one of my clients, as I mentioned, he's in the same line of business,
yeah.
and it's constantly changing, right? With caregivers that don't show up and
Yeah.
the challenges of running a business. How would you say your experience as an agilist has either helped you or hindered you maybe in this business?
That's a loaded question, Phil. No, I don't know if it's hindered me. I think what I've realized is from the mindset of cultivating change
Mhm.
and growth mindset from Agilist, yes, it's helped me.
Mhm.
Uh, but it's also very different when it's your own,
Yeah.
right? When it's your own business, your own practice, right? When it's your own money, right? Your own life savings, right? That you're investing in. And so I have daily struggles with it. I'll
Mm.
be upfront, right? Of just the stresses and changes and it's every day, right? Like even this morning, I was talking with my scheduler who schedules shifts, and I'm getting texts at night, right, and calls from the clients at night, right? Like, oh, I need to make this change, I need to do this, or there's a medical appointment, so we need to do this, and can you ask your caregiver to do this, right? Of course, we're going to try our best to do it,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, it's I don't know, it's a very interesting space, and I'll also say, coming from more corporate, this is small business, more blue collar, right? And
Mhm.
not in a bad way. I'm not saying that,
Yeah, yeah.
definitely not in a bad way, right? But it is a very different mindset. I want to obviously take care of all my caregivers as best as can, and give them shifts and hours. Um, but it is a different mindset, right? How everything operates, right? The
Mhm.
dynamics of a caregiver, an agency, you're dealing with medical, a little bit more medical,
Mhm. Mhm.
where it's 24/7, right?
Yeah.
I've been on calls 2 in the morning with caregivers at a client's home because something happened in the home,
Mhm.
and we're talking through an issue, right? And I'm on call, right? So
Mhm.
I will pick up in the middle of the night.
Hmm.
So that is very different, and it will challenge me in my mindfulness, Kumar, which I'm still practicing because it's always on, right? I mean, as a business owner yourself, right? I mean, you could probably describe like how it's been and just growing your own business, right?
Sure.
Um, Yeah. So I don't know if I answered your question, right? Like
Well, in a
yeah.
way you did. I mean, I used to run restaurants early in my career, and not the same
Wow.
thing. It wasn't a 24/7 operation, but certainly the hustle and bustle of a restaurant is probably a little similar to the hustle and bustle of the work that you do, and
Mhm.
how you sort of coordinate the activities of caregivers and your
Mhm.
schedulers and your sort of all
Yeah.
the different people that are involved in providing services to your clients,
Yeah.
right? And it changes every day
Yeah.
because just because a schedule is made, you can plan something. It doesn't matter. I mean, the plan can change in a moment's at a moment's notice, because to your point, things change, right? And so you have to be very adaptable and nimble, and be able to pivot and come up with solutions that help your clients as best as you can. And so I don't know if it's helped you being an agilist in the past, but I suspect that maybe it's helped you be more adaptive to the changes that you've had to deal with.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. It has to a certain extent, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it goes back to, I think it's daily practice, right? And
Right.
I would take it beyond agile, right? It's just being human and
Right.
understanding that change is constant. I know we talked about that as agilists, right? But it's just constant, and knowing try to be mindful of what you can and can't control, right? Like, I can't control a client, medical conditions, family dynamics.
Right.
The caregiver have their own lives, right? Like, they have
Yeah.
personal emergencies, whatever it may be. And yeah, so just being mindful of that, and just how much agency do I have, right, into
Yeah.
controlling situations.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense. So, everyone says a year 2 or 3 in the business, year 1, 2, and 3, generally they suck before you start making a profit. So I don't know how far you're into this journey. Where would you say you are now? Still sucking, or is it?
Still sucking, still sucking, still learning.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
bless. I'm gonna shout out, like, my wife is never online or anything, but bless my wife for just being super supportive. Um, and she's not stressed.
Well,
She's not stressed.
I mean, has it helped you in your personal life, right? Moving away from corporate, do you have
Yeah.
more time at home, or is that still sort of you're trying to find your balance?
So, I would say I can make my own schedule, right? Just like in a
Mm,
small business. Or as I have a good friend, childhood friend, who's a fairly successful small business entrepreneur, and he always says, "Well, you don't have to work. You just won't get paid." Right?
yeah.
He's like, it's just the way it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think it's very much like that, right?
All right. Yep.
Um, Around that,
And
and you could do 10,000 things, and which I wasn't prepared for. Like, sometimes I'll sit in my office and go, in corporate life, you have some sort of objectives, whether you're using OKRs or whatever it may be, right? Or your task. And here it's, what do you want to build? What do you want to do, right? To drive value, and get
mhm.
clients, right? And help people. So I think that's also very different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I try to, with my small business clients, introduce some of those practices that work with
Okay.
larger companies, and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
works
How's
to a
that?
certain extent,
Yeah.
um, but there's some things that just don't, because the things move so rapidly, right? And you're
Hmm.
sort of, you can only control what you can control.
Yeah.
So it's I've had some success though.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I don't miss meetings. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I, the meeting is with myself and maybe with one or two staff members, and
Yeah.
then we go, all right, go execute. Right
Yeah.
there's no committees. There's no
Yeah.
oversight.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
certainly is a blessing, I would say,
Yes, yes.
that you don't have meetings that you have to attend all the time. All right, so maybe some lightning round questions before we end our session today.
Sure.
Um, what's the best business advice you've received since opening right at home?
Ooh. Best business advice. I would go back to, and I'm not saying I follow this advice.
Yeah.
uh, Everyone's saying it's going to be one of the hardest things you're going to do.
Mm,
I don't think I was fully mentally challenged for that. I knew it was going to be hard,
yeah.
um, but really, once you're in it, um, it's very different, right? And that's the big, like, I would really, and I encourage anyone, obviously, to explore this if you're open to it, and small business or entrepreneurship. And it's not for everyone, um, but I think to really think through like what that means,
Mm-hmm.
to yourself. What do you want to build? Um, if you have family responsibilities, financially, that's very important as well, because it's a risk.
Yeah.
Any business, right? It doesn't matter what it is.
Sure.
It's always a risk, right? But I will say I've had a number of people tell me, and probably this is not a lightning round answer, sorry, Kumar, but as it's weird. I have some good friends that just come up and be like, whatever happens, even if it doesn't work out, Kreisler, that you got some courage to do that, because most of us don't have the courage to do that.
Yeah. No, that's so true. I think small business owners are the most courageous people, really, because you're putting everything on yourself, right? Faith in yourself, faith in your intuitions, and it's a big risk, but you're taking a risk on yourself, and what could be more rewarding than see that risk pay off? So,
Right.
kudos to all the small business owners out there.
Yeah.
So, what keeps you going on tough days?
Clients, just when I'm able to help them, and we in a bind or feedback, right? One, and then I would say two, going back to my late mother-in-law, just she's always on my shoulder.
Yeah.
Just reminding me this is meaningful work.
That's great.
Work.
I love that.
Yeah.
If you could tell families one thing to prepare for aging parents, what would that be?
One thing, I would say just be prepared emotionally.
Okay, that's good advice. Yeah, because it can be an emotional thing to think about. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. I don't have any other questions. Do you have anything for me?
I'm gonna ask him. What advice do you have for me? I mean, you've been running your own business. I mean, since I've met you, you've had your own business. Like, what are some key nuggets?
I think it's just resilience, perseverance, and to keep trying things. Keep experimenting with different approaches to, question everything. You don't know what you don't know, and even what you think you know. Is based on incomplete information, because the world changes all the time. And especially over the past, I'd say 5-10 years, it's changing even more rapidly than it ever has before. With AI, and it's touching every part of the society. I think it will eventually touch every part of society. So it's really not staying comfortable with what you think and just sort of always experimenting.
That's fair. No, I appreciate that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Kreisler.
Thanks for having me, Kumar.
It's good to have you on. Good to sort of catch up with you. When I originally contacted you, the topic was, the Kreisler I knew.
That's right.
Not the Kreisler I know now. But it was a really pleasant surprise to hear about your journey and where you've come and where you're taking this. And I'm gonna show this comment from Mary. Really, really touching.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you for the important work you do. For sure.
That, Mary.
And I hope this episode was useful. I thought this would be a perfect episode for the new year. It's sort of a year, you're kind of rethinking yourself, birthing yourself, a new version of you. You've gone through this. You go through this every day, Kreisler, in your job, and you're in serving the clients that you serve. So I would say for all of us, it's a moment to think back and just kind of reflect on what you think you know, what you actually do know, and do something different. Experiment with something that makes your life a little better, makes the lives of others better. I think that would be my takeaway anyway from our conversation.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the opportunity, Kumar, and thank you for having me on. It was
Of
awesome.
course. Thank
Catching
you
up.
so
Yeah.
much. And
Thank you.
thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks,
See you
everyone.
all next week. Bye, all.